My name is Matt Iavani. I'm a partner at Full Funnel. We're a go-to-market and revenue operations services company, and I want to talk to you about how you should adopt AI technologies in 2026. Everyone thinks that AI is just a tool, just something you kind of like throw into the mix and it should add value, but it's really not. It's like a disruptive force. It's something that is a force multiplier, but it can't sit on top of legacy process or bad process. And the other thing to point out is that most organizations are always running at like full speed, right? Organizations are trying to hit revenue numbers. They have all of these different initiatives just to keep the lights on. And we're really moving from a carburetor engine to like fuel injected technology with AI adoption. And it's going to cause a completely sort of downstream series of impacts that are going to really transform how organizations look and feel once we really get into this AI adoption age. So I usually recommend that organizations are really focused on building an R&D function to first map out what the organization is doing. So one of the processes I love doing anytime I'm doing AI adoption or modernization is I'll first just look at a particular process. It doesn't matter what it is. And I'm going to do a V1. I'm going to build out a workflow schematic, understanding exactly like what the objective of the workflow is. And in most organizations, they use labor and technology, and they run a series of actions that happen sequentially. Once we understand the components of a workflow, we then can figure out how to do it within an AI agent or an agentic process or a workflow that uses agents. And then we're going to start version controlling that type of workflow. So when you think about that R&D team, the first step is get your team to go out and do this, like actually start building out workflow charts of everything that goes on at the company. The next thing you want to do is you want to look for automation platforms. We like N8N, we like Clay. You can use those tools for practically anything. They allow you to build automations inside of an environment. Let me just kind of walk you through a little bit of how I think you can impact your organization at a very just like operational level. So the first thing is that you have a massive amount of equity in transcripts. If you're using Zoom as an example, if you use Gong, if you use anything to record calls or conversations anywhere in your organization, that's a really great thing to have. And you can essentially route them to a central repository. You can then use tools like N8N to then extract those transcripts and then run agentic flows against them. Maybe for CS, you want to know about client satisfaction, if there's upsell, cross-sell signals. Maybe you want to know if your account team is delivering your end of the bargain in a way that you sort of intend them to do so. On sales, it's everything about like, are we selling the right way? Are the prospects receiving value the right way? Even in recruiting, it's like, are we talking about the company the right way? Is that our candidates responding the right way? One other thing that I'm really big into is using tables and agents to build reporting. So if you think about any sort of function that you're trying to do, if I wanted to make a report as an example about the entire NASDAQ and how the NASDAQ companies were looking at potentially buying things like enterprise staffing, I could do so by building a clay table like this, which I've used this example in a number of other videos, and then kind of run all of this analysis to figure out which publicly traded NASDAQ companies fit the bill to be a client of Full Funnel's enterprise staffing business. I aggregate all 969 companies. I figure out all the different signals to them. I get down to the 184 companies that make the most sense. But then what I can do is I can take this entire table, export it as a CSV, and then digest it through an AI agent to give me a macro, quantitative, and qualitative report about what's going on in the enterprise staffing market within publicly traded companies. Another example is things like recruiting. So this is an example of a passive table that I'm using in Clay, and this is all AI automation, right? We're bringing in what is effectively every go-to-market engineer in North America. We've found out there to be 3,552 of them. We monitor everything that these people do online. This is like your ultimate passive recruiting tool. We can build logic in terms of like how skilled these folks are, whether or not they work at good companies, whether those companies are financially stable, if they have good culture fits. And then we can essentially build out a narrative to figure out if we can actually go and offer these folks a job or interact with them to see if they'd be a good fit for our team in a passive context. You can also use agentic flows in your recruiting active workflows. So as an example, as people apply to jobs, you can actually go through and build workflow engineering to use AI agents to to parse through their resumes, their backgrounds, their LinkedIn to figure out if they're a fit for what you're looking for. There's actually a video that we did about how we built a fully autonomous recruiting agent using N8N, Play.com, and Otter.ai. The next thing is really all sales and marketing functions. So sales and marketing right now is all workflow engineering. That's everything from database management, where you can build workflows, where you have agents do a variety of steps to keep your databases clean, both from a company and contact perspective. You can use agents in inbound workflows. We use tools like Clay.com to do this, where it interacts with tools like HubSpot, Salesforce, etc. You can do outbound prospecting, leveraging tools like Clay, a variety of AI agents as well. So there's an incredible amount of really easy applications of AI that you essentially can do to essentially future-proof your organization. And if you want your company to still be competitive in 2026, start documenting those workflows today. The organizations that master automation architecture are going to be the winners in the next decade. What do you think?